You are here with By the Cover. Today we're going to be reviewing All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This book was 338 pages and took me 3 days to read. I would rate this book a 5 out of 10. This review is going to contain major spoilers, so if you do not want to hear those, click off now. As far as my likes with the book, I liked the family characters that surround Titus. I actually liked them better than Titus himself. Some of the book was lightning fast and had really good pace. I thought the murder scenes were creative and fit the theme of the book. The book also had a very intriguing antagonist. I liked the 5% of the time the dialogue that was clever actually hit, typically towards breaks or the end of chapters. I loved Titus's outburst in the church, which tied back the theme of what he was taught by his parents earlier in the book. I loved when Darlene left Titus because she was nothing more than a prop in his life and he didn't really deserve her. And I liked the breakdown that Titus had towards the end of the book, which showed some character growth. As far as my dislikes in this book, and there are many, let's go with page 1 of the book. The first few sentences. This just seemed very pretentious and a big build-up for a really stupid payoff. Let us read. Sharon County was founded in bloodshed and darkness, literally and figuratively. Even the name is enveloped in shadows and morbidity. Legend has it, the name of the county was supposed to be Charlotte or Charles County, but the town elders waited too late, and those names were already taken by the time they decided to incorporate their fledgling encampment. As the story goes, they just moved their finger down the list of names until they settled on Sharon. Oh, what a story that is! I can't believe that. That's so intriguing. Are you kidding me? That was a stupid start to this book. That kind of encompasses this book, a lot of build up for not that much payoff. Let's continue. The deputies that surround the main character, Titus, seem to be, for the most part, idiotic props, people that are just there to spur the conversation along so that Titus isn't talking with himself. It's both like it's their first day on the job every single day they show up, and also their first day encountering racism in a southern town that deals with racism daily and has for their entire lives. They're ridiculously shallow. There's also a part so idiotic at the beginning of this, I couldn't believe it. And that's after the shooting. He says he enforces his deputies to not talk about active investigations in a police department where they do active investigations as a team. The author likes to go on long diatribes about racism and white men doing bad things, and also just noir language that equates to a lot of fluff and no substance. I would say about 100 out of the 338 pages of this book is really good, and the rest of it is fluff. The author has contradictions. For instance, it's mentioned initially that the pictures of the victims were black and brown boys. Then, just a little bit later in the story, they find some videotapes in the house they're investigating, and they see that some younger white kids were among the victims. When they find the bodies under the willow tree, Titus mentions no one is looking for them because they're black. Well, what about the white kids? His deputy, rightfully so, says, "Don't make this about race," and Titus immediately snaps at him and says, "Well, look at him. What else could it be about?" We just move past that and we don't mention the white kids again. I don't know if they just forgot to take out that sentence or if it's purposefully ignored. I don't know. It was just bad writing altogether. I didn't like the side plot about the Confederate statue or the parade, didn't care. That was fluff that was put into the book, had nothing really to do with the primary plot. Every time Scott was in a scene, Titus has to tell him that he doesn't work for him. I really don't like when stories repeat themselves. That was repeated several times. The author does a lot of overuse of sayings in this book. There's a ton of sayings. Sometimes they land, other times, and most times they do not. The Tom plot twist was pretty obvious, but I did like the line about how people don't want the mask pulled back on their heroes. Very relevant. The author also liked to repeat facts that we've already gone over, just to make sure you got it. An example of this is the reasoning they gave to why Elias couldn't be the killer. He was not big enough. They repeated that several times in several conversations. The killer gives multiple warnings to Titus about protecting his flock, and yet Titus has zero change in behavior when this happens. The request to go through Cole Marshall's business records that late in the game was stupid. They should have done that first thing after he had been identified. Why they waited until a completely separate, unrelated event happened is beyond me. The mother of the killer being completely fully lucid, knowing about her son, the things that were happening in this county, and saying nothing is ridiculous. She doesn't tell anyone the entire time she's fully aware her son's a killer. Even more ridiculous, Natalie, her caretaker, knew the entire time as well and also says nothing until the cop comes to talk to her. Are you kidding me? I thought it was ridiculous that Titus blatantly gives up information about the mother, telling him who the killer was, with absolutely no thought as to what would happen to the mother, even though previous people that have tried to help Titus have wound up dead or missing. Yet he just willingly states this to the killer. Freaking ridiculous. Another plot hole. Titus brings in the state police way earlier in the book, like a third of the way through the book, if that, to help him because he knows they have resources that he does not have. Later in the book, Scott has a conversation. This is towards the end of the book, and Scott threatens to bring in the state police because Titus can't handle the investigation. And Titus gets pissed at him for this, even though that's why Titus did it earlier in the book and they were already involved in the investigation, was because he wanted their resources. But now he's angry because they're going to get brought in again because Scott's going to ask him to come in. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And I also disliked that the killer was pretty much a new character introduced at the last minute. The means by which he is tracked down are ridiculous. I did not like the protagonist, the primary person in the story. He was not all that likable. He was pretty much a walking contradiction. He had a superiority complex. He treats all his deputies like children. They kind of are the way they're written. He says he's going to change things, but isn't going to change things that are too hard to change. He does what he can, and when he can't, then he kind of moves on. And he reserves his anger for racial outbursts towards whoever happens to be in the vicinity when they piss him off. He's not honest with the ones that he loves most, and yet he expects everyone to be honest with him. I really didn't understand the scene where he thinks Carla's going to be next in line to be sheriff. And so he's like, you need the experience. We'll take you and have you in on the interrogation with, I think it's Diane, but I could be wrong on that. Whoever that character is, however that's pronounced, he does the interrogation with her and brings Carla along. She does literally none of the talking or interrogating. The last bit of the chapter is Titus finishing a sentence that Carla starts. If you're going to make it a point to try and have a female step up and learn to do the job, then have them do some learning or literally participate in any fashion aside from 2 or 3 words in a sentence that you then finish. I thought that was extremely poorly done. I didn't understand the point of it. To me, it was a very pointless scene. Kind of a cheap way to set up what happens later. Final bit of absolutely ridiculous plot is there's a portion, a crime happens during a parade, and not just a minor crime, but a pretty bad crime in which people are nixed. One of the council people still wants to continue the celebration that evening after that happens. Get real. So as far as my overall feeling on this book, I thought about 100 pages of it was great. Just great writing, great thriller writing, really fast paced, loved the idea of the story, the primary plot line, but we delve into so many side quests along the way that have nothing to do with the primary plot. Overused dialogue and overused sayings and things that don't matter, that weight drags the story down a lot. Also, the sloppy contradictions that were throughout this book, I just can't look past. This is my first S.A. Cosby novel that I've read. I will be reading more of him. I hope this is his worst book, because I've heard great things about his books. I really hope this isn't the best this man has to offer. That's about it. We'll catch you later.